My name is Hyung-Ki Joo. What I would put in my immigrant jam is kimchi, of course.
We are back with another amazing episode here at Immigrant Jam headquarters, okay? With a bedazzled Batman belt. Our guest today is Hyung-Ki Joo, pianist, composer, teacher, honorary doctor, style icon, the only Korean Jew, comedian.
And I'm the fastest toothbrusher in the world. That is the thing. No, don't laugh. Hey,
What does that mean? That you just don't brush your teeth?
No, I am. No, I mean the speed of my wrist movement.
According to who?
Well, according to me, obviously. I challenge anyone
Very
to define
convenient.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if Guinness would give me a trial, then they'll see that I'm the fastest toothbrusher.
I think we should submit you to the Guinness.
I would so love it.
I think we should have you back on here and just have you brush your teeth and have the audio of you brushing your teeth very fast.
Gladly. It's also a visual thing because I put lots of toothpaste in and then this toothpaste is spraying all over the place. It's very COVID friendly. Friendly.
Yeah, it's you're foaming at the mouth. That's how you approach life.
That's right. With
That's how you approach life. So you said it. You're Korean, but you were raised in the
United Kingdom of Great Britain.
The landmass formerly known as the United Kingdom.
That is correct. Yes, I was born in a place called Norwich, England, and this is why I have a Ponzi voice. Yes, I'm actually British. So I'm British Korean or Korean British or the other way around. One of those things.
Which one is it, do you think? You don't care?
I don't really care.
You don't care?
No. I'm a citizen of the world.
Did you care growing up as a kid? Did you want to be British? Did you hate the fact that you had immigrant parents and stuff?
That's an excellent question. You know, the problem is I grew up in a place called Norwich, which basically at that point in 1970s hardly had any Asian looking people. There were some Chinese people with Chinese restaurants, and that was like home food.
Yeah.
There were no. Actually, my parents opened up a Korean restaurant.
Really?
So they went full immigrant. But the sad part of that is they opened it up in a place called Norwich. I mean, that's like opening up a restaurant in I don't know,
Idaho,
Poughkeepsie or something. You know, it's like, I mean. Nothing against Poughkeepsie, okay? Don't cancel me, Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
I just mean,
But all of the listeners are actually in Poughkeepsie for this podcast.
Shit. That's the Groundhog Day place, though, isn't it?
That is, I think so.
Anyway, so of course, had they opened it in Flushing or New York, Koreatown, probably we'd be billionaires by now.
I asked a friend who's British. I was like, "What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear Norwich?" Because I actually heard or read somewhere that you were born there, and he said it's
Alan Partridge.
He said Alan Partridge. He did say that, and then he also said it's like the redneck part of Britain. Is that true?
I don't know. Everybody was racist when I was growing up.
So you faced that? You faced racism growing up?
I did. And my dad used to get very irate because he would see people going Chinese, Japanese, and he would be really upset like, if you're going to insult, then it should be Korean, because he just cared about being insulted as a Korean. He was so proud of his Korean heritage. He was like, I don't care, bring it on, but let's raise the flag of awareness for Korea. Let's get the racism right. So he was always, and besides opening up the first Korean restaurant, which was a flop, he also founded the British Hapkido Association.
Wow.
Hapkido is a martial art.
I did Hapkido.
No.
I swear to God, on Broadway
Hapkido.
and Hapkido of all things, I made it all the way to Orange Tip or something, or Yellow or something. And then I had, my arm was in a sling because I hurt my arm. And then this guy started, I was like 16 or 15. And then this guy started hitting on me there. And I was like, I'm never going back. But I loved Hapkido.
When you say hitting on you, you're like, hey, Lucy, hi.
He was like, can I walk you home? And I was like, I don't want to go back there. But I loved Hapkido. I loved it.
Wow.
I loved it. That's so funny.
So my dad was like your Yoda, probably. I mean, the equivalent.
Probably.
The equivalent.
Why is your dad like? Your dad's a huge deal in Hapkido?
Well, I mean, he was at some point. He was on the.
I met your dad.
Yes, you did. That's true.
I sat next to your
That's
family.
true. Next time you do that, you got to do a Hapkido exchange.
I remember one thing. Okay, I can do it sitting down. I remember one thing from
shit.
Hapkido. Okay,
Yeah,
are you ready?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Huh? Oh, okay. This is a podcast, as I just remembered.
To bed with you.
I remember
No wonder he was hitting on you.
very slick Hapkido movement, which apparently means I love fisting in Hapkido.
Yes.
So you grew up practicing Hapkido?
No, I think I have to ask my dad again why he claims that it's because I started playing the piano.
Mm-hmm.
That he didn't want me to injure my hands.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a suspicion that he didn't want to teach me martial arts because he knew that I was like a Charles Bronson, Bruce Lee vigilante. Because I do think that
he's going to kick everybody's ass.
Well, you know, it's actually not an accident that I'm wearing a Batman belt.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, besides the fact we're recording in Gotham.
Right.
But I always was like against injustice. And I think had I been equipped with Bruce Lee skills, I think I would have just gone around kicking people's shit in. Because I even did it not knowing any martial arts skills. I remember one time I almost died because I was in the subway in London. I must have been like 28, 29. And there were these
2 years ago.
Many years ago. There were these 7 guys, probably like 16, 18, probably with like switchblades and all that kind of stuff. They, you know, you don't mess with like 6 to 8, 18-year-olds. And they
British
were just,
on top of it.
and they were just torturing this old lady. Mm-hmm. This old lady had glasses about, you know, the thickness of Empire State Building. Mm-hmm. It was like, you know, and they were just, she was reading a book just quietly, very frail old lady. And they were just like tantalizing her and taking a book out, throwing it away. I mean, the classic bullying on. And there were other people on the tube, but nobody did a fucking thing. So I'm like watching this. I'm steaming. Mm-hmm. The Bruce Lee, Charles Bronson, you know, wants to come out, the vigilante, and I'm like, no, don't be an idiot. You'll just be pummeled. You'll die.
Yeah.
You'll die. But then I just saw I have to fight for injustice. So I got up and I walked over to them and said, "You fuck with her, you fuck with me first."
Nice.
Yeah? And, you know, meanwhile, your brain's still talking to your other brain going, Hyung-Ki, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you know? And fortunately for me, they backed off. I guess that's where racism works in your favor. Because they probably saw like Asian guy, oh, you fuck with her, you fuck with me. You know,
they thought you could like suck their eyeballs out just from like
actually,
a distance.
I'm just some bloody classical pianist. I mean, they would have just killed me on the spot. You know what the worst part is? It's not that I expected like a medal from this lady, but I went up to her afterwards and gave her book back and, you know, glass. I said, "Are you okay?" She just ignored me. No, thank you. No, nothing.
Maybe they were rehearsing for like a hidden camera show or something, and you ruined it. Maybe you know that mentalist that goes on the trains.
Yeah,
and
right.
What's his name?
Simon Baker.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Maybe she was part of that thing, and they were like, all like, "Oh God, here we go again, an upright citizen." Okay, just let him go. So you grew up in Norwich.
Yes.
Your dad had this Hapkido studio and became the Hapkido godfather of Great Britain.
Yeah.
And your family had a Korean restaurant. You got bullied.
Yes.
And you started playing piano on your own. You just picked that up?
Kind of. I mean, it was like my mother's suggestion because she realized that I really loved music.
Mm-hmm.
And
how did she realize that? You would just always want to listen to music and
well, I guess one of the signs was when we were walking shopping and we would pass by a record store, I would just freeze. And I was immovable. I was like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old.
Wow.
And I would just stay there, transfixed. And in those days, before, you know, we were like super sterile and careful, you could actually ask the shopkeeper, "Is it okay if my son just stays with you while we go shopping?" And that's what they did. They just left me alone for an hour while they went and did their shopping. So while I was there in the record store, for me, this was like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Wow.
I was just listening to whatever they were playing. And that was the start of and I listened to everything. I mean, I never, and still today, segregated or discriminated any kind of music. I mean, there's music you like, music you don't. But,
Right.
you know, I also recognize, I mean, heavy metal's not my thing, but still, I appreciate good quality, you know, so I'll listen to
ZZ
Metallica.
Top.
Yeah, sure. I mean, anything that's good, why not? You know?
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree completely.
So that's how. And then my mother kind of said, "Well, look, he really likes music. Maybe he should play something." And she played a little piano when she was young, and she thought it'd be kind of nice to play. I couldn't care less. I would have been happy if I played the oboe or saxophone or guitar. I didn't care. I just loved music so much. But I had this sort of typical Asian parents, especially my father, which like, when you grow up, you must be doctor or lawyer. By the way, he really talks like that, okay? Again, I'm not promoting racial stereotypes. My dad fucking talks like that. And I'm doing it lovingly of my father. And but when I was about 10 years old, after 2 years of piano lessons, my teacher was leaving the country and she didn't want to leave me in bad hands. So she summoned my parents and said, your son has musical talent. I've made arrangements for him to go to a music school, the Yehudi Menuhin School.
Right.
And of course, none of us had heard of Yehudi Menuhin, this guy. But you know, in Asia, in Asian culture, and especially in Korea, there's a huge respect for teachers. It's like if you're a teacher, it's like
Right.
you're on a pedestal.
Right.
So
How it should be, really.
Yeah, it's true. I think teaching is the most underrated profession.
Yeah.
And the most important one, actually.
Yeah.
And the most underpaid
Absolutely.
for what it is. If you think about the value of what it gives you. I mean, a good teacher will affect the rest of your life.
Totally.
And gives you something that you can give to others and actually makes the world a better place.
I remember my art teacher told me, you're going to do something important for the world one day. And
here you are. This is it.
And this is it.
Yeah.
This moment. This exact moment. No, but it's so true. Yeah.
So I got into music school.
And that's a boarding school, right?
It's a boarding school. It's a bit like Hogwarts for musicians.
So that's how far from Norwich?
It was
Are
about
we talking?
a 3-hour drive.
So you're there during the weekend, you go home on weekends?
No.
You're just there.
The whole time, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
You go home for holidays.
Some people could go home in the weekends. Well, there were some kids that didn't go back for the whole year because at that they had parents in Taiwan or
So people came there from all over the world.
Yeah.
So was that also, did you feel almost more comfortable there than in Norwich because there was
Absolutely.
people from other places and you weren't like the outsider, so to speak, because everybody was an outsider, I guess?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We were all kind of outsiders and outliers.
And outsiders anyway, because if you have such a strong passion for something, you're always kind of an outsider,
That's
right?
very true. And you know, there were some students that looked like me. I was actually the first Korean student, but you know, there were Chinese, there were Singaporeans. It was really United Colors of Benetton in the school, a really international school. And this is why I felt at home. This is why, you know, I'm reluctant to say whether I'm British or Korean because I've always felt most comfortable, you know, in that sort of environment. I remember when I was studying here in New York, and the only other sort of feeling I had like that is when I would go play soccer in Central Park.
Yeah.
And then you're like 10 on 10 or whatever. And each of those 20 people are from a different place.
Right.
You know, Brazil, Iceland, whatever.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And you're playing a game in relative harmony, you know.
And so you were 10 when you went to the school.
I was 10 when I went to school. And when I got in, my father sat me down and said, so, you want to be doctor or you want to be musician? I said, Daddy, give me 3 days to think about it. And I had a sleepless night. The next day I came back. I said, Appa, I've decided I want to be a musician. He said, okay. And I thought about it years later that first of all, that he asks a 10-year-old what he wants to do is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And second of all, that he actually accepted and agreed and approved it and supported me when it was against his every wish. And for such a stern dad, it's actually, I'm very grateful to him. He was the kind of guy, I would come back, you know, with a maths test and I would get 90%, which is fucking good.
Yeah, and it
He
wouldn't
would
be
say,
good enough.
No, must be 99 or 100. It's like, fuck you. And somehow for this, going into music school, is like, when I went to the final round, there was a big celebration. We went to Chinese food, of course. And he was like, you know, you're not musician, you're not talented, and you make to final round, we celebrate. So it was like one of the few times he congratulated me in my life.
Why did he say you're not talented?
Well, because nobody ever thought that I could be a musician. You know, I mean, it wasn't
because they thought that that's just not something that happens in your family, or.
Well, I guess it's partly they had aspirations for me to be a doctor, which actually now I am.
That's what I was about to say. You're both now.
Oh my God.
You're gonna call your dad? Let's call him live right now. Papa, I'm a doctor now. What kind of a doctor do you want you to be? Like surely not a chiropractor.
No, not chiropractor, choreopractor.
So you went to this intensely amazing school, and does that mean that you just played piano most of the day there? I mean, you had math and science and all that, or what was it like?
Yeah, well, you know, at the beginning, of course, you do academics as well. I mean, we're not all that dumb. We are. Dumb, but, you know, they did make some effort to give us some education. But the really disconcerting thing for me was I arrived at the school. First of all, it's a super elitist school. It's like 47.
So is it private? Is it expensive?
It can be expensive.
Okay.
Luckily, the British government had some scheme where you could sort of get pro rata rates, whatever, something like that. Scholarship aid. Otherwise, it would have been unaffordable. But I arrived there and I realized that I'm in a place with just geniuses and prodigies, like little Mozarts, little Stevie Wonders. And like, okay, they're going to realize I'm a phony. They're going to kick me out. And I really thought that. It's not modesty. I really thought they're going to kick me out. And after each summer holiday coming back, I was like, oh, my name's on the list. I've got a room. I'm still here. And it felt like that for a long time.
So was it like the movie Whiplash?
Oh, well, yeah, it's a bit like Whiplash. It's
where
a bit
you're
like Harry Potter.
Getting your hands bloody and getting screamed at.
Definitely. I had my piano teacher kick me in the balls.
What?
Yeah, it's
why the balls?
I guess he wanted to make sure that there would never be any other lineage of me whatsoever.
Or what? What did you do?
The DNA line.
What was the offense?
Oh,
you didn't play the Moonlight Sonata in the right key.
You played it like sunlight.
You played it like a phony.
I think it's because I tried to get my, you know, in England they serve tea at 4:00.
Of course.
And tea and biscuits.
Yeah.
And there was some orchestral rehearsal, which meant that tea would be delayed. But I'm a pianist. I don't play in the orchestra.
Yeah.
And I'm hungry.
Exactly.
So I went to the kitchen and said, I probably made up some lie that said that somebody said that I could have my tea now. And this lady just reacted out of control. I'm going to do an impression, but again, this is how she talks. She was like, she called out, his name was Mr. Norris. Mr. Norris, Hyung-Ki, he lying. And this guy just stormed down from his apartment. And he came out and said, are you lying, boy? Are you lying? Picked me up by the throat, dragged me all the way around, and then shoved me against the radiator and started kicking me in the balls like this. Yeah. And the crazy thing is that two teachers actually walked past at that point. And I remember seeing them out the corner of my eye and I thought, I'm going to be saved. And they just went, ooh, and they just hurried past. But I mean, this is not atypical of schools in the old days. I don't know how much around it is now. I think, of course, you know, there's been major crackdowns on all kinds of abuse, physical, sexual, and mental. But unfortunately, it's still.
But it's kind of lame because this wasn't about your skills. This wasn't like someone yelling at you because you weren't playing the piano enough. All right, this was about food. What the fuck? What the fuck is that? That's so lame. It's like, I'm traumatized. I never steal food, and I could have become a way better pianist if they would have pressured me on that side. But so do you like? Because a lot of people would say that's like trauma, right? But do you feel that, because it seems to me that you thrived in that environment? Because you don't talk about it as like, well, you know, this destroyed me.
You know, without getting too philosophical, I mean, I think you always have at least two ways, if not more, to react. I mean, like if someone steps in your new shoes, new pair of shoes in the subway, obviously you're pissed off, right? But you can be like, hey, lady, you stepped on my shoes, you fucking bitch, idiot. Or you can be like, well, it was an accident. And like, hey, don't worry about it. And then you just pay for your shoe cleaning bill or whatever. But I mean, you always have a choice how you deal with it. It doesn't belittle or forgive what happened, right? And in this case, obviously, it was clearly conscious beating up. But, I mean, it builds character, that's for sure. And I still didn't learn Hapkido. That's a moment when can you imagine if I suddenly went, oh yeah? What the? He's like on the ground. That would have been glorious.
That would have been glorious.
I think that's why my dad didn't teach me.
But you did that with the piano. Because look at you now. You're doing that every single day by just being as amazing as you are. You are kicking that guy in the balls. Because he is probably now the like limping janitor at this school.
Because I kicked him in the balls.
Because you kicked him in the balls metaphorically. Yeah. We had a janitor at our school growing up, and he was Greek. His name was Status. Yeah. And he would always go, excuse me, what are you doing? And we'd be like, shut up, Status, and like, throw shit at him. And then we found out that he was the star of Elia Kazan's movie, America. He's the star. Wow. He picked him out of like nowhere. He was like 18 years old. He put him in this movie, and then I guess he fell from grace and ended up later in life becoming the like hall monitor at a high school. Isn't that nuts?
Wow. So that's life. You gotta take care of life. That's karma, baby. You gotta take care of life.
You gotta take care of life. So on that note, what do you think going to that school, growing up from 10 years old with that kind of pressure, being around all these other people and having this experience where you're thinking about your skills and your sort of passion, you're forced to be in such contact with it in such a way that it's not playful anymore, that it kind of becomes serious, right? Because you're a kid. And normally as a kid, it's like, yeah, I was a kid and I played piano and I loved it. And then you kind of decide to make it a career. But you had to decide that then with your dad. What do you think that did to you?
The problem with education, with musical education and also education in general, is that there's not enough play involved. And it's interesting that in many languages, when you talk about playing music, it's, auf Deutsch, spielen, French, jouer. So, but we are not always taught, or we lose that feeling of playing. And it's so important for kids, for humans, just to play, to try stuff, to experiment, to fail, to just fuck around.
Yeah.
And of course you need to be serious, you need to practice it, but that was my problem with the whole classical music scene, which is that I felt that there's nobody in the world that loves music more than me. Mm-hmm. That was actually the thing that kept me going, because I thought, okay, maybe I don't deserve to be in this special school, but I love music more than everybody here. So maybe they'll let me in on that. And so here I was going to concerts, and it was just so stuffy, so snobbish, so elitist. This whole ceremony, people coming on dressed in penguin suits and not even not greeting the audience, and there's this air of stuffiness, and they also have this like attitude, most of them, not all of them, but of like, I'm God's greatest gift to man, and you're just you're just mere mortals, you public people,
right?
And I was sitting there going, wait a minute, this is like a funeral, and this has nothing to do with the joy and passion and vibrancy of classical music, how I think it should be. And I thought, well, we have a real problem here, because there's nobody in the entire world that loves music more than me. And I don't want to be here. We have a problem. Houston, we got to solve
So
this.
how old were you when you realized that?
I guess around 12, 13, 14.
What?
That's on this kind of
you're like,
level.
I was 4.5 when I wrote my first symphony, and I was like, you all suck. That's amazing that you realized that at 12.
I think so. I mean, I have a wonderful partner in crime and one of my best and oldest friends, a guy called Alexei Guzman,
Yep.
who you know.
Yep.
I have a duo with him called the Guzman and Jew, and we're basically the same age, and we met at the school, and we both felt passionate. That's what made us friends, because we would go to concerts, we'd go, what the fuck are they doing? I mean, maybe some of them played well, but it was still, they alienated audiences. We felt like the whole ceremony around classical music is alienating people to come. Look at the audience, they're gray-haired or they're about to die.
Yeah.
And, you know, and later in life, I would realize as I would start playing more at schools for kids, and my own nephews would be listening to all kinds of music on their playlists.
Who I
and
also
stuff.
know.
Yes, that's right. Oh, he adores you. Oh my God, my
love your
nephews
nephew.
adore you. And so I realized, yes, the youth does listen to classical music. When you play, like, if you go to school where, you know, they're ready to slaughter you because, like, oh, who's this dickhead coming in, you know, going to teach me Bach? But then if you have the right attitude and you find a way to connect with them, and they suddenly hear like a cello or a piano, you can see it. They're like, they're just transfixed. So you see the power of music. But if you come in, you know, wearing a bow tie, oh, you little kids, I will now play Beethoven for you. I mean, maybe one person at the most will be like, wow. The others will just, you know, pick their nose.
So do you think that being in that school in a way freed you up because you were like, okay, I'm just here and I can do what I love to do? And because it seems to me like it's such a, from the outside, it seems like you're so young and there's so much pressure, right? Yeah. But now when you talk about it, it almost seems like maybe it allowed you to relax more and actually really find yourself within that because you were in the place where you could just live that part of yourself that you loved more than anything else.
Well, I think I was lucky. I think we had good teachers. First of all, Yehudi Menuhin, whose school namesake is of whence, whom, which, he was a totally serious classical musician. However, within that frame, he broke walls like crazy. I mean, he was basically the first serious classical musician to collaborate with Indian classical. I mean, he collaborated with Ravi Shankar way before the Beatles discovered him. He collaborated with jazz artists like Stephen Grappelli, Duke Ellington. So his scope was broad, and so this is the guy who founded this school. Now, of course, it was for classical music, but he had. I mean, the guy also like had a sense of humor. When he was like 80-something years old, he conducted the Berlin Philharmonic standing on his head.
What?
So his legs were like, ba, 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 these are his legs. Da, 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 da.
And he was a yogi too.
He was a yogi. Exactly.
That's
why
crazy.
he could stand on his head.
Yeah.
So he already had a bit of cuckoo in him.
Wow.
So that must have somehow
trickled down
in some
and
way.
Inspired you guys. Because that's the thing, right? You guys are, you and Alexei, you were talking about your duo, you're pretty much the only or the first or the only ones I've ever seen that put comedy into classical music. Like, you guys are both insanely fucking amazing musicians, classically trained, and then you do like fart jokes. Which is so fucking cool, which is amazing, which is just like, it's so true. I remember one of the first times I saw a classical concert, it was Beethoven, and I think it was like the Ninth Symphony, and I burst out laughing. I burst out, and I had a laughing fit.
Yeah.
And I was there with this friend of mine, and he was like, stop it. And I think it was like at Carnegie Hall or something. Yeah. It was here in New York. I couldn't stop laughing. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. Right. I think also just hearing it after you hear it so much and then hearing it live, it's like almost hilarious. It's like, really? You guys are doing this?
It's like when you see the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's the Mona Lisa.
Yeah. And but yeah, of course. Why not? Why shouldn't it be funny?
I mean, laughter is a genuine human reaction, and laughter does not equate funny. I mean, people laugh at funerals.
Yeah, and laughter doesn't equate flippancy. Flippancy.
Exactly. That's right. Yes.
That's a word.
Be flippant. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know something great about laughter, which is that you know, they have like this, we're talking about yoga, they have yoga laugh therapy, right?
Yeah.
Where you basically for like 60, 90 minutes just force yourself to laugh.
Yep.
It's so good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the great thing about laughter. The brain, as super smart as it is, cannot differentiate the difference between fake laughter and real laughter.
Yeah.
So when you're like, ha, 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 even if it's not sincere and genuine, the brain goes, oh, we're laughing. Okay, let's send all the good hormones. Let's send all the serotonin, all the good hormones, and it makes you feel good.
My sister and I used to do that as kids. We'd lie on our backs and fake laugh until we just start real laughing for hours.
I saw this fantastic interview just 2 days ago with Steve Martin, where he talked about, he said there's two types of laughter when you're performing or whatever, when you're making jokes. One is the joke.
Yeah.
And you're doing the joke, and then there's the punchline, and you hear the laughter, they're sort of rising and falling, and then if they find it funny, you know, they laugh, and you there's that kind of laughter. But he said there's also this other kind of laughter when there's no logic to it.
Right.
Like sometimes when you're hanging out with your friends, and even if you're not high, you'll just giggle and
Which is
laugh.
rare, but it does happen.
You'll just giggle and laugh for no apparent reason.
Right.
And someone who walks in the room says, hey, what are you guys all laughing about? Nobody can say.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, you're just laughing. It's just hilarious. It's funny. And he decided that he's going to go, after doing all the joke stuff, he said, I'm going to go for the second laughter. Let me see if I can do things on stage without telling jokes.
Yeah.
And just tap into this laughter where people are just laughing, but they have no idea why. I think he succeeded.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Remember the jerk?
Of course. I always love his quote where he says about writing, for the fact that I started with a blank page, I'm not doing too bad. But I would say there's also a third type of laughter, which is what our mutual love.
You mean the guy we had the threesome with? Or,
yeah, exactly. That guy, Joe. No, John Cleese talks about in Faulty Towers, which is the like hysterics, where you get the audience into hysterics because you don't wait for the punchline laugh. You're already at the next punchline. So they're laughing at the last one, and the next one already hit them on the head, and they just can't stop laughing. They won't stop laughing. Right. And that with them, with Monty Python, I think, is a combination of the physical comedy and the, the writing, of course. Yes. But that must have been scary for you guys to start. Was it scary, or did you not give a fuck, or is it also this mentality of like growing up as an immigrant? Because Alexei also grew up as an immigrant. He's Russian. He was born in Russia.
He was born in Russia, never had a Russian passport. He had a passport that said Jewish.
Right.
And he had a Soviet passport.
Right.
And when he was 6, they politely asked him to leave.
Right.
So then he landed in Germany, of course, with his parents. He didn't do the train thing. You never know.
Got a cab. He hitchhiked by himself.
Yeah. And so he's 100% immigrant. You know.
So do you think that maybe you guys have your metaphorical balls are so gigantic also because of those experiences? No, but I'm serious. I think people with immigrant backgrounds or with that experience have this like, or a lot of them, of course, you can't generalize, but a lot of people you meet that have these immigrant backgrounds and have had to deal with parents not speaking English and bullying and being made fun of and being embarrassed of your parents and not fitting in and all of that. There is this like, there are these fucking big balls that come out of that. This like internal also hustle and kind of like maybe bravery or something, you know? So was that, but back to the first question, was that scary for you guys?
The first question?
Yeah. No, but was that scary? Scary for you guys to be like, we're gonna do classical music with comedy? Did you try it out first in little bits, or
we were already starting to do it? I think we did it at the first Christmas party because at the school there was always a cabaret evening at Christmas party, and that's when we first started doing our skits. But we always took the skits very seriously.
Yeah, of course.
And I think it's very kind what you said earlier, but it's not exactly true. There have been many people who have done classical music with humor, including Mozart, Rossini, and Haydn, and many of those. But I think it's fair to say
maybe in this century.
Okay, this century.
Can we talk about this century?
Nobody has done it as seriously as us.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Right.
And I think also, as brilliant as other people are, their focus is, or it seems that way at least, their focus is more on the clownery and the humor. Whereas us, it's not. It's actually about the music.
Well, exactly. But that's what I mean.
The first place for
you
us.
guys are amazing. It's almost like sometimes I want to be like, oh, can you just play now for the next 2 hours? And the comedy, it's almost like I want to be like, I want a comedy show and a music show separately and together, because it's both great, but the music is so incredible. But you guys have made a choice to also become known for that, which I think is kind of admirable or crazy or amazing too. You kind of, that's not something you do on the side.
No, but to be honest, it's not an easy gig because, having a unique genre or something that's uncategorizable is a curse and a blessing.
Totally. People don't like that usually.
They don't like it. They don't know where. So we get this all the time, like, oh, they're fantastic. We want to book them, but we don't know where to plan them. Do we put them in a subscription series or do we put them on April the 1st? Or, it's like, oh, maybe, do they have a Christmas concert or Halloween? It's like, hey, there's 365 days. We don't just exist on, April the 1st and New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
When we played here with the New York Phil, we played New Year's Eve.
Right.
I mean, very grateful that they invited us, but it would take just one more leap of imagination that we could actually play on maybe March the 13th,
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. It's funny because I think people that aren't in the entertainment industry or in the arts always look at this industry or this world as like still open-minded and, like crazy and anything goes. And really when you get down to it, there's so many boxes.
So many boxes.
I remember, I'll never forget my agent in Germany pulling me aside at like a film festival party and being like, hey, don't tell the casting directors here that you write and do comedy too, because it's going to seem weird if you do too many things.
Yes.
You should just be an actress for these people.
And this is what I don't understand. That should be a bonus.
Yes.
Right? I mean, if you can do this and that, surely that's more reason to like employ someone.
No, but then people with no imagination go, well, what are you then?
Yeah, what are you?
What are you? Are you a classical musician or are you a comedian? And it's like, why? I can't be both?
This happens
Or are you Korean or are you British? Which one are you?
That's right.
So you have to pick.
That's right.
Because
we seem to be moving more and more in this direction.
I think so.
You have to pick.
I think so. I think that I almost feel like we should get rid of like national identities. I think that's kind of outdated. You know what I mean? It's like this notion, it's like I'm American or I'm German. It's like the world is so open and
this whole cultural
connected.
Appropriation thing is one of the most, if not the most racist thing I've come across. I mean, this whole cultural appropriation stuff.
That people are angry about cultural appropriation?
I wish there would be more people that are angry about culture. No, but like, for example, I mean, like, people getting, ostracized because, they're white and they have an afro, let's say, or they're black, but they go dressing in a kimono. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, we all come from the same place. First,
I agree with you, but I think in this country, I understand where it comes from in the sense of the racism in this country has been so undealt with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Way more than, for example, weirdly in Germany, and where they're also extremely racist. I'm not saying they're not racist, but they have worked up their history. There's reparations for Jews in Germany.
That's right.
And here that's not the case.
It's educated.
Exactly.
Germans are taught about what they did in
Yep.
the war. There's
Exactly.
statues, there's memorial plaques. Whereas in America, you will hardly find any memorial
And
plaque.
I think that's why I understand more here where it comes from when people say, all right, white people just take everything from us. You know what I mean? That kind of notion. And I agree with you. Look, when I was in high school, nobody wanted to be German. Obviously, it's never been cool to be German, by the way. Newsflash. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it's still
David
not cool.
Hasselhoff is German.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
you said
David
it. David
Hasselhoff.
Hasselhoff. Usually when I do this podcast, I have a life-size cutout of David Hasselhoff in the we're in a different studio today.
Oh, okay.
But I remember that growing up in New York and being German, I had some German friends because it was an international school and we just wanted to be Puerto Rican so badly that we all kind of started talking like this. And one of my friends wore like the whole like door knocker earrings. I didn't do that because I didn't even have my ears pierced then. But like we were so obsessed with that, and it was like also about like exploring your identity and stuff like that. Now we would have been totally canceled for doing that as teenagers because that would have been cultural appropriation. So I think it's a tricky subject, but yes, I think that it's sad that it's moving into like a place where we have to stick to one group even more than ever before.
Exactly. Yes, I know
But then you moved to Vienna after London and New York.
Yes.
So another new place where you didn't speak the language.
Yeah, I spoke primitive German. My German's slightly improved, but it's still quite Neanderthalic. Yeah, but I'm working on my German. I'm starting to watch like German TV series.
Dude,
just to
I'm
improve
so
my
so
German.
for you.
Yeah, but I've got to get there somehow.
German TV is pretty unterirdisch, as they say. So do you feel at home there? Do you feel at home in Vienna?
That's why I moved, actually.
Vienna is kind of a racist city, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or a conservative, let's say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you definitely don't see United Colors of Benetton there.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It has improved a lot. I mean, I remember 20 years ago, there were hardly any Asian restaurants or Moroccan or African restaurants. I mean, it has changed slightly, but it's still, I mean, it's not New York, it's not Brooklyn, it's not London. Hopefully that will change. I don't know why I feel at home in Vienna. It's a mystery, actually. But it's the only place that, because in a way, when I was in New York, in a way, I felt more at home here. Because you go out on the street and nobody really gives a shit what you're wearing, what you look like, what you say, how you talk.
Yeah, and everybody's from somewhere else.
Everyone's like...
You're weird if you're American here.
Right.
It's like, what do you mean you're from Iowa?
But my soul didn't feel at home.
Here?
No.
Ah, okay, that's interesting.
It just,
Oh, interesting.
So, but when I was in Vienna, I just felt like I belong here.
Huh.
And it's one of I think the only place when I would leave, I would actually shed a tear.
Wow.
I don't think I ever
The only person in the history of all time to cry for Vienna.
And a Jew.
Right here. And a Jew. The first Korean Jew ever. But maybe you're just Beethoven reincarnated. Maybe that's why.
What?
Wow,
Mel
that's
Brooks
amazing.
Once, and he was sitting at that table, and I thought, okay, this is my moment. I have to go up to him. So I went, I said, sorry to disturb you. And he said, yeah, hey, so what can I do for you? I said, well, I'm just a big fan. I'm a musician. He said, what do you do? I said, well, I'm a pianist, but I have this, show where we mix humor with classical music. He said, do you have a business card? And I happened to have one. I said, yeah, sure. So I took out his business card, and it says, Iguris man and Jew. And Mel Brooks, without skipping a beat, said, oh, the Jewish man and the Jew. That's going to work.
Wow. Yeah. Well, He's a fucking legend.
He is.
And you work with some legends, Billy Joel, John Malkovich. You introduced me to Terry Gilliam, one of the best moments of my life.
That was fun, wasn't
That was so fun. That was so fucking fun. You know, I learned English through Monty Python. And the first time I went to London, I was, it was my first time going to Edinburgh. I'd never been to London. So I was like in my late 20s. And I was alone and I didn't really know anybody in London. And I was walking around and I kept thinking, why am I so happy? I feel so happy and so familiar. And I just love this. Everything makes me happy. And I realized that it's because everybody sounds like Monty Python. And I loved them so much growing up. When we moved to the States, my dad said, watch as much TV as you possibly can. And somebody gave us like a box set of Fawlty Towers.
All right.
So, of course, the Germans episode for us was
Which
like...
is now being cancelled,
I know.
by the way.
Yeah.
I think all of Fawlty Towers.
All of Fawlty Towers, yeah.
And
yeah,
John
that's
Cleese
wild.
was not so happy about that.
No, and John Cleese, you know, I mean, I think that like a person and an artist is not the sum of their tweets. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and what you tweet or don't tweet about is not a reflection of what you most care about. And so anyway, it is what it is with John Cleese.
Terry Gilliam is an immigrant because he's actually an American.
Terry Gilliam is an immigrant.
But he immigrated to Great Britain.
Yeah, so. That's right. But that's interesting that you didn't feel at home here. I guess it's America then.
I think cosmetically I felt at home. But just my soul didn't feel at home. Because I think as wonderful as a city as New York is, you know, everybody here, well, first of all, it's a hard city.
Yeah.
I don't even know how people survive in this city.
They don't either. They have no idea how they do it. I think people wake up every day and they're like, oh, I'm still here. Cool.
I mean, this room is way too large for an apartment. I mean, back in those days, we would have like an apartment the size of a toilet. Yeah. Which would cost like $2,000. Of course. To rent. And you would split it with two other people with a curtain in the middle. Yeah. Which made, making out quite difficult.
Or hot. Or hot. Depending on your preference.
Depends who your roommates were. How.
I know. My bathtub was in my kitchen for a long time. Not anymore. But
I don't know. And Vienna's just kinder.
That's true.
It's just you can
and more beautiful.
For that same amount of money, you can have like a palace. In the center of town.
Right. No, that is true. Every time I go to Europe, I'm like, what am I doing? What the fuck am I doing? Like I visit my friends and they have like fucking terraces and, live on cobblestone streets. And I'm like, there's like a rat stuck in my hair and I'm peeling cockroaches off the bottom of my shoe. I do something called the Poll Questionnaire on this podcast. You know the Proust Questionnaire, don't you?
Yeah, my favorite swear word.
Yeah, exactly. The Poll Questionnaire is a little different. Are you ready for it?
I was born ready.
Okay. In a movie about the Statue of Liberty, who would you cast as the Statue of Liberty?
Wow, that's a crazy question. It just makes me think. I know I'm not answering the question, but one of the best Woody Allen lines of all time is when he goes, "The last time I visited a woman was when I visited the Statue of Liberty." The last time I was inside a woman was when I visited the Statue of Liberty. Who would?
She's too old for him. Let's be real, people.
Who would play the Statue of Liberty? God, I don't know. Michelle Pfeiffer?
Michelle Pfeiffer. I like it. That's good. Okay, I like it. If you could add one face to Mount Rushmore, who would you add?
One face. I think that needs. I know this is like sucking up to you, but probably someone like you.
Oh, great! I love it. Perfect.
There needs to be a woman. There
needs to be fun. I needed to hear.
So Lucy Poll.
Great, Lucy Poll. That's great. Yeah. People go to Mount Rushmore and they're like, "Who the fuck is that?" That's the point, though. Exactly. That's the point. Yeah. If you could add one amendment to the U.S. Constitution, what would you add?
Get rid of all the stupid amendments that you already have.
Okay, I love it. If you could ban one type of American food, what would you ban if you were president of the United States of America?
School food.
School food? Like
American
all
school
school
food.
lunches?
American school food.
Okay. Just
Yes,
anything in particular or just everything they serve?
I don't know when the last time you
Even
were
if
in
it's
an
kale.
American public school, but I mean,
That's bad.
when you see pictures of that, I mean, you cry,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, you get down on your knees and you go, wow, you know, this is
Please
serious.
someone get them a Wiener Schnitzel. Please. If you could deport one American person, who would you deport?
Wait, sorry. I started laughing. What's the whole question?
If you could deport one American person, who would you deport?
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's a good one.
Too many to...
No, but I mean, you know who I would deport? All the TSA people.
Oh my God! Wow! Yeah. Oh shit!
No, because they're just super inhuman and unfriendly. And I know now they're gonna watch this, and I'm gonna get shit at the TSA. I've just made my. But guys, you can be human. You know, we love coming to this country, and you're the first point of contact that we have, or the last point of contact that we have. And like when you're at a doctor's office, you get a lollipop, or the little chocolate that you get at the end of the dinner. That's what you remember. So, you know, just be human. Just be human.
I love it. Yeah, I love that.
Screaming at us and like it's just such inhuman.
This is
behavior
true.
and such power trips. It's totally unnecessary.
This is true. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Not all of them.
But I think TSA should hand out lollipops. I totally am with you. That would be amazing.
Yes,
that would be great. What the fuck?
You'd feel like they care.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't actually have to care. It's just to pretend like they care, and that's enough.
I agree. What's your favorite Korean word?
It's a word that I actually, the thing is, my Korean is very primitive level. Mm-hmm. So most of the time, I don't know what I'm saying.
Great.
Because I've actually just heard my father cussing, but it would probably be, ya, shikya, which is really bad. It's like, you son of a bitch, but much harsher.
I love it.
And I do it on stage, and there's a video of me where I play this Korean piano teacher. It's called Piano Lesson.
Yeah.
And when we didn't know what YouTube was, we just thought, we have this sketch called Piano Lesson where I play this Korean psycho, and I'm just screaming at my colleague who can't play the piano, and I'm just tormenting him, beating him up, and all of that. Strangely autobiographical. And I'm always saying, yeah, rhythm, concentrate, yeah. And this clip went viral, and got a lot of shit from Koreans. My dad, my sister would be like, "Hey, what are you doing? You're bringing shame to our family."
Oh no!
It's like, yeah, but it's got millions of hits. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's how I got you this Ferrari.
I love this question. It's a very good one.
What's your favorite Korean word?
No, just the whole thing.
Oh, the questionnaire?
Yeah, this
whole
whole
thank you.
Lucy Poll questionnaire.
What is your favorite Britishism?
I guess it's polite British policeman.
Oh, okay. I mean, like, what's your favorite British saying? Or mine is he's lost the plot. I love that. Like, you've lost the plot to the story. You don't know what's going on anymore.
I must say, I do love it when people, they go like, "All right, love, how you doing, darling?"
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It just
feels endearing.
It's endearing.
Yeah.
It's probably gonna get cancelled soon.
You think so?
No, because you can't just in this uber politically correct world, you can't just address someone as sweetheart or darling, because that's assuming blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Get into that. So, but let's see how long it lasts.
Let's see if you get canceled after this podcast. All right. Well, lastly,
Yes.
and probably most importantly, do you know how I can meet David Hasselhoff?
Well, I mean, everybody's just one step away. Right?
You're the second person to say that. Somebody else said, I'm 3 steps away.
Yeah. Well, at the most.
You think so? From David Hasselhoff right now?
I think you're destined to meet him. No, of course.
I think I'm destined not to meet him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, that whole thing, because I was, for many years a Woody Allen fan. And when I first came to New York, one of the things I was most excited about coming to New York as a student was I'm going to go hear Woody Allen play, because he plays every
Saxophone.
Monday. He plays clarinet.
Clarinet, that's what I mean.
Now the gig
Same
is
shit.
the same,
I'm
same
kidding.
thing. Now he plays every Monday night at the Carlisle, but before it used to be another place.
Yeah.
And for some reason I never went, because I guess you always take it for granted. You always think, oh, he's there, I'll go another week. Years later, I finally went to Carlisle Club and I saw him, and I was literally sitting in the front row, and he's sitting right in front.
Yeah.
And this is a guy whose movies I've watched so many times, and I love his wit. His early stand-up is genius.
That's true.
His early stand-up
To be
stuff
fair,
is
that's true.
Absolute bloody genius. And there was something about the way that he played the clarinet. He plays with a whole band of people, like maybe 4 or 5 other people. And not discrediting him, but let's say he's not a professional musician. He's a very good at playing clarinet, but he's playing with pros, right? And they're all like do da da do da da do do do, and he's just da 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 da.
Wow.
No emotion, nothing, just dead somehow. And I thought, wait a minute, how can you play this like New Orleans stuff, and you're playing with great and I realized there's something. And in that moment, I realized I would much rather idolize him from afar.
Right. Yeah, of course. Don't meet your heroes.
I could have gone.
That's what they say. Don't
Well, I met
don't.
you.
He came to see my show and sat in the front row. Do you know this story?
And he loved it. He wrote a good write-up for you, right?
He loved it and then was canceled 2 weeks later.
Shit,
I was like, Woody Allen came to see my show. And for 2 weeks, people were like, oh my God, that's the most amazing thing ever. And then 2 weeks later, people were like, you should never talk about that again.
Well, you know our friend Terry Gilliam has been canceled just a few weeks
But not
ago.
the same way.
Not in the same way, but he did lose his job.
Did he
He
really?
had a job at the Old Vic.
Oh, wow.
And
I didn't know about that.
The reason why he lost it was because he put on Facebook, go see the new Dave Chappelle special. It's very funny, or something like that. And Terry said, I knew that you can get canceled for what you say, but I didn't know you could get canceled for something you recommend.
Yeah. Well, that's a message to all you people out there recommending comedy specials.
Yes.
All right. Do your research. And that means we have
Recommend Immigrant Jam podcast with Lucy
Recommend
Poll.
Immigrant Jam. Hyung-Ki Joo, where can people find you on the social media? Please tell the world.
Instagram under Hyung-Ki Joo, if you can spell it, good luck. Or under Igudesman and Jew.
And on YouTube.
On Facebook, YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe YouPorn also.
Probably. Yeah. OnlyFans. Huge on OnlyFans. If you can still get in. It's been closed off. But that's that was that. That's fucking amazing musician, composer, teacher, now a doctor, comedian. I mean, what can't this man do? That's what I want to know. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Please follow Hyung-Ki Joo everywhere. Follow him home. DM him. Slide into his DMs.
Woo.
What do you think about that?
I love it.
Okay, great. And please rate, review, subscribe, do all the things. Thank you so much and good night. If you like what you just heard, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, recommend to all your friends. And if you hated it, recommend it to your enemies. Thank you for listening to Immigrant Jam, the podcast with me, Lucy Poll. Have a delicious and nutritious day.